Hi, I'm Doc Ski. I'm here at Batson Enterprises. I got together with some of the crew to talk about tiger wrapping. Tiger wrapping is one of the easiest tools we have to bling up a rod, but it can be frustrating and it's very temperamental. And I want to show the guys some of the things that I have discovered that help make them more consistent. Not entirely, but more consistent. Tiger wrapping was developed by Scott Fruit. It was his signature wrap for many, many years. And after he published, he allowed me to go ahead and start teaching people the different techniques. And there's a myriad of them, of variations that have come up. The standard tiger wrap, the basic tiger wrap, is usually 2 or 3 threads wrapped simultaneously as a bottom wrap, and then 3 coats of finish, and then the same 3 threads on top, but sacrificing. In other words, pulling 2 of them out, which leaves you with a gap. So now what you've got is a full layer of thread covered by a layer of thread that has gaps. And what that does is these threads cross in different ways, gives you patterns. Now, it depends on what you like. Some people want tigers, stripes, just like on a tiger. Some people, this is my preference, like the lava lamp look. You know, part of being from the 60s, so again, kind of fits with me. But the lava lamp look has become really popular. It's not impossible to achieve, but it's really temperamental. Each of you wrap with different tension. How hard you pull a thread. And the thread, the harder you pull on it, the narrower it gets. So if you wrap with a lot of tension and I don't wrap with a lot of tension, we're going to get different results. Also, the size of the threads. The size of the threads change from company to company. Size A thread is not size A thread at Fuji and Good Broad and everywhere else. Each one has little specific differences. I've kind of found that in sizes, just let's talk about size A. Madeira 60 weight, smallest. Madeira 40 weight, a little bit bigger, but still smaller than the normal size A thread that we used to get from Good Broad and Fuji and all that. And then after that, you run into Hytina. Hytina kind of sits right at the size 40 Madeira. And then after Hytina, I found that Fuji Ultra, that's the one without color preserver in it, the Ultra, then the Fuji A NCP, then the Good Broad A plain, and then the Good Broad NCP. And so on and so forth. I don't know the other companies. I can't tell you about the other manufacturers, but those are the ones that I've used, and that's what I found. So when you're doing things, it's important to note, and I try to make notes when I do a tiger, what threads I use, what companies I use, what size I use. And then if I get a good result, I write down what I got a good result from. So, one other thing that I have and that I'm donating to the company is these things. They're made out of Lexan tubing. And what I did is I wrapped threads with different gaps. In other words, one time it might be size A bullard and then a size D bullard, and I sacrifice a D bullard. Another one might be put a bullard and a D Good Broad and sacrifice a D Good Broad. So they're all different sizes, and they work for me because I wrap that and I wrap these. So I'm working with the same tension all the time. I'm donating them here so that you can at least see what the possibilities are. You can use it as a starting point, but it may not work out exactly the same it does for me, because of the differences I just talked about. But just to show you how it works, if you want to crawl up here and get close, Here's an underwrap. These are all underwraps that I've already put 3 coats of finish on, 3 or 4 coats.
3 different colors.
3 colors.
3 coats.
3 coats. This one might be 2 colors, but most of them are 3 colors and 3 coats of finish. Now, if you went 4 coats of finish, you'll get a more drastic effect.
So but you recommend putting 3 coats before you put your next thread on top?
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, now here's one that's done. I don't know how these are going to work out because I just pulled them out of the rack. So here's the underwrap. And that one has really stark tiger straps.
Yes.
Really stark.
So which one is that? So
this one is a Fuji A plus a Good Broad D, sacrificing the Good Broad D. So the gap
Fuji A
is a Good Broad D.
Okay.
The leftover thread is a Fuji A. This one's a Sunset double aught, which many people don't know. Sunset used to make rod wrapping thread. And it's a double aught, but I've got 3 of them and I sacrificed 2.
Sure.
So let's see what happens. A little less stripy. See the difference?
But that one you put 3 double aughts. With double aught is a small thread.
Really small.
It's like silky,
they don't even make it anymore.
Yeah. And then you took off only 1.
2.
Oh, you took off 2.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then this was the Fuji A, 4 of them. And I sacrificed 3. So let's see what we get. Look at that. Look at how bizarre that is.
Right, yeah.
So I would know that this, even for me, I would start with this. And if I didn't get the same effect, because maybe I wrapped tighter today.
Sure.
At least I have a starting point. And that's what I'll talk about with you all. Because I have a starting point, but it's not exactly what I want. I want that sweet spot. I want that lava lamp look. So my starting spot, and then I'll talk more about what my plan is. There's one that's kind of in between the others. Now, like I said, this is it fluctuates a lot depending on the day, the size diameter, the thread. So many factors come in, but I have found I can always make something really work that I like. Now, sometimes I want stripes. I think it was Tammy's rod that I did for her.
For the tiger.
I did a weave of a tiger. So I wanted tiger stripes. My son, he has a white tiger tattoo on his arm. I wanted to do tiger wraps on his pool cue. So, but on most rods that you see me produce for the shows and stuff like that,
it's the lava lamp look.
Really go for that lava lamp look with little islands and stuff like that.
Yes.
So now I won't lie, I did some practice before doing this for you guys, but we will experiment just a little bit so that you can see what the changes make. Now here I'm going to just guess, because I don't know for sure, that this is all Fuji size A thread. And I'm going to start off with a Bullard is going to be the thread that I'm going to keep. A Bullard size A. And this is another trick. When you're trying to get to that sweet spot, I've had days where I've done 6, 8, 10 tests. In fact, Ryan has been with me in a lot of cases when I was in that mode doing a lot of tests. So I'm just going to get this started. And one thing I like to do, because I don't like the rod backing up, I wrap with a lot of tension. You can see
I can see that's a lot of tension.
A lot of people don't, especially tiger wraps. People don't like to do tiger wraps that way. They don't like to do tiger wraps that way because it's harder to burnish. The tighter you wrap, the harder it is to burnish.
Yes.
My little weights went off. See if you can find a longer one there, Ryan. There you go.
So basically what you're doing is you're just adding more tension back here.
I'm adding more tension so it won't back up.
Yeah.
If it does back up, it doesn't back up as far.
Right. Okay.
So we got this going, and we're going to add in our 2 threads. I'm going to start with a Bullard A. That's the one I'm going to keep. Then I'm going to put in 2 Fuji Ultras. Have no idea what I'm going to get because I didn't practice this one, but we'll see. Now, the way I do these things is my way of doing it. Each person has to find their own way.
So you're adding the same 3 colors or 3 different colors?
3 different colors. The top wrap, you're sacrificing so much. What I usually do is I have a box full of garbage thread that I'll never use again, or I don't have enough of, or I don't like it, for some reason. Those are the ones that I save for these things, for these tests. Okay. This is just me being OCD. I'm going to put the red thread, put the blue thread through closest to the piece. And what I do is I stick it through my loop. I want the blue thread to be close to the black. Helps if you don't have 100 cups of coffee. I want my blue to be closest to the black. So I'm holding my finger there, holding my finger here, and then pulling it through with the loop, and it'll stay like that. Now all 3 threads will be coming off the spools adjacent to each other. You don't have to do that, because if there's enough throw between the rod and the work, it'll find its own sweet spot and lay correctly. I make my own tensioners, obviously. I make my own tensioners, and I like to use rare earth magnets opposing each other, so that when I press down on the spool, trying to push those magnets together, that's where my tension's coming from. And then I clip it. So, and I got to back off on the tension just a little bit here. So I get it started. Somebody's got too much tension. So I get it started. And this is just me. A lot of guys like to leave some gaps in the underwrap so that it's easier to burnish, even on the overwrap. But I like to start off with everything consistently tight. So I burnish to get it tight. Then I can wrap a little faster. Then I take a loop. Some guys don't use this, but I like to take a loop and put it around my 2 sacrificials. There's one of them, there's 2. Put it around my 2 sacrificials, and I do this so that when I go to pull them, I pull up on the loop and snip them rather than take a pointy instrument and try to dig them out. Because invariably, I will cut the main thread. So this is what I do every time with the Tiger. I make like a 1-inch test strip. Do my pulling. Do I like it? Yes, no, whatever. We'll see what I get here. Now the conventional way, the way that Scott started with the whole Tiger wrap, he would wrap the exact same threads on the top that he did on the bottom. And almost always he got a really nice result, but not always the islands and the lava lamp look. So about that much, because even today, in today's world, thread is expensive. Used to be you could buy a spool of thread for $2.25 or something like that, a 1 ounce spool. I don't know what it is nowadays, probably $6, $7. Okay, there's my test. I still burnish, and I always burnish the same way. On the 0 and 180 axis, I burnish the same direction that I wrapped. On the other two axes, I burnish the opposite direction. So I know this is 0 because of my tie-offs. So I will burnish, and I'm pretty aggressive. I make sure that I see the thread move, turn it, burnish the other direction, turn it, burnish back, and then burnish.
And then for your sacrificial.
Now I pull the sacrificials. I'm going to cut this off so that it's easier to pull through. And then I pull it up. You see it lift the two threads?
Mm-hmm.
Snip.
Okay.
One side I have to back off manually. That's usually the short side. And then the other side I can pull as I wrap. Never pull your threads just by themselves. I always turn the rod and pull the thread. Because when you do this, you disrupt the main thread. So, and I just let it fall off. Now, I've already stated, I'm not big on tigers. That's what we got here. So I will back this off a little bit. I'm going to keep it there though, because I want to see, I'm going to change sizes of thread now. And what I've found is it's always about the gap. The pattern you get is about the gap. The movement. You've seen tigers move, how the dot moves or the stripes move or they change colors. That is a result of the thickness of the finish. So pattern is gap and movement is thickness of finish. Now, back to what we did before. I'm going to put the loop back in. And I'm going to use everything the same except for one thread. And the reason I'm doing it this way, I'm saving that because this thread is a premium to me. It's Bullard size A, and I do a lot of work with it. So I want to save as much of it as I can. The ones that I'm sacrificing, I don't give a whole rat's whatever about it. Okay, now I'm going to take this blue Fuji A and move it out of the pattern. Clip it under there. And I'm going to insert a Fuji size D, or no, not Fuji, a Bullard size D in its place. So what have I done? It's a size D. I made the hole bigger. So if it improves the wrap, I know making the hole bigger is good. If it's still not what I want, I'll still go one more bigger. That's why you need to know what companies, how their thread sizes are oriented to each other. If it gets worse, then I start going smaller. I make the gap smaller. So when you do your test, look at it and go, okay, I don't like it. Try a bigger one. If it gets worse, you go smaller. If it gets better, but still not right, you go one size larger. And you can find that sweet spot.
Quick question.
Yeah.
You keep bringing up the name Bullard. Who
Voodoo. It's Voodoo now.
Voodoo.
Gotcha.
He bought the Bullard thread.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
he bought the
Okay.
Bullard thread. And of all the threads on the market, their black it's like midnight black, like deep hole black. Just so much deeper black than anything else. I mean, they're all good and they all have use, but I like the blackness, especially for my weaving, because it makes my weaving pop, makes the colors jump out at you. Todd Doborowski, another very talented weaver, he likes to outline all of his weaves with black, which then he can wrap with lighter threads. But I kind of stay with black because that makes my weave stick way off the rod. Most rod manufacturers are a really dark color blank. There's a few other colors and they're great. And then I try to match the color of the blank for my background thread. Okay, I did the same thing. I want the red. It was the blue, but now the red's on the right. So I'm going to tighten up my red. And then I'm tightening up my white. And then you'll watch me move the thread. I'm taking and moving the black over. It's on the right of the red right now, and I want it on the outside. You don't have to do it that way. The reason I do it that way is so that when I get to the end, I just wrap over the threads. Mm-hmm. If I didn't do that, what I'd have to do is cut the threads and then stick them under. So you'll see when I get to the end again. Okay, I backed off everybody but you. I get a few wraps turning. What I'm looking to accomplish when I'm burnishing like this is a consistent pattern in these 3 threads. If I have too big a gap, is when you get, I don't even know, oh, well, here's one. You see this stark line?
Yep.
The gap is too close on one and too far apart on another, and I don't like that. I consider it a blam, but because tigers are about oddity, some people like them that way. Whoop. What I did forget was this little puppy.
And you're the tag out.
Yeah. I usually like to do it about 4 turns in. That way when I back off, do it manually, I don't have to do it a long way. This one I'll do it a little longer. I pulled my 2 sacrificials because I'm going to sacrifice the white and the red again. Now, see, the reason I moved the black over is going to come up right now. I put my finger up here to hold my thread. I grab my 2 sacrificials. I get some slack in it, pull it underneath the black. Bingo. It's done.
And cross it over and hold it.
That's it.
Yep.
Just little cheats that I do.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody has to find their own little system. This is just one. It's like I never criticize anybody about doing things different. Finish is another matter. You know, you ask 10 rod wrappers what the best finish is, the best way to put finish on, you're going to get 20 answers.
Most definitely.
So it's just, this is just a method. My suggestion to everyone is try everything, try everybody's method, and what works for you, do it.
Right.
And if it works for you consistently, just because somebody new comes along and says, oh, this is the only way to do it just to see if it works good. But if it's not broke, don't fix it. All right, back to burnishing. Again, here's my tie-offs. So I know that's the 0 axis or around the 0 axis or the 180 axis. Turn it a quarter, go the other direction. Turn it a quarter, go back, and turn it a quarter, and go. Now, sometimes, like in this wrap, I don't know if you can see it from where you're standing, but in my underwrap, I can see the bow this way, so I burnished against it. You want to do your 2 layers opposite. You wrap opposite, you burnish opposite. And that's how you get really good results.
So even on your underwraps, you're doing that quarter turn,
Yeah.
finishing one way,
Right.
even though you're not pulling anything.
Right.
Okay.
And what you're trying to do is you're trying to put anomalies in the thread
Sure.
so that the crossings are different
Okay.
all the way
That makes
around.
sense.
Now, there are other ways of doing burnishing. I have taken to a new way that I do a lot where I just burnish little quarter-inch strip, little quarter inches here, there, on the other, here, there.
So that's how you get your lava lamp look.
That's how I get the islands,
Oh, the
little
islands,
circles. I did one that had little dots, so I could have had a, I don't know, leopard or something.
Right.
So, okay, so we did that. We did our burnishing. We did our wrapping. Now we're going to cut. And once again, I'm going to unwrap by hand. And I could already see a huge difference.
Because of the size of the thread,
Yeah, this the gap.
the gaps, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I like that better.
See?
See better.
It's definitely thicker.
Yeah. You can, well, it stands out more, right?
Okay. That's almost where I want to be. I thought it was going to be exactly where I wanted to be, but I'm wrapping a little tighter or looser today. I don't know. So, but I know I'm going the right direction. I want more of that. So I'm going to try one more. You see how tight the bands are here?
Yeah.
And how loose,
Yeah.
more I don't know,
Flowing.
vertical or horizontal, whatever you want to call it. There's a little dot forming there, so I know I'm close. Kind of a little dot forming there. And you'll notice that if the tigers are really tight, the bands are really small.
Right.
As it expands out and you go for the lava lamp look, the bands get thicker. And that's what happened here. You can see, you can, oops, see what I did is I put my own anomaly in there. And I can show you a quick fix. You see this gap that I create by touching the thread?
Yeah.
That's because this finish is really hard. It's been on here for years. So it's really hard and things tend to slip a lot. You have to be very careful. If you have an instrument like this,
Yep.
you can go in and find the gap. Boy, it's even hard to see.
I know finish coat stays tacky for a bit. How long do you usually wait, Doc, before you do your overwrap on it?
8 hours,
Okay.
finish is dry. One thing you'll find, and this is kind of on subject but off subject, one thing you'll find that, let's say I had just done this finish work a day or two ago, it's still a little soft. Finish takes usually about a week to completely harden. One thing you'll find is that when you do your test and you unwrap it, the pattern's still there.
Right.
Because it's creating little ridges.
Yeah.
And that was what we call a naked tiger, leaving the ridges. The problem with a naked tiger is it's very susceptible to, it rubs up against the rail or something, and it takes those ridges and, flattens them out and stuff. There's other methods. There's so many ways to do a tiger. I could go on for hours about that. There's triple layer tigers. There's tigers with 2 open layers, open bottom and open top. So if you wanted to put a fish sticker underneath your tiger, then do 2 open layers. You can still see your sticker. There's tigers with mono, thread on the bottom, mono on top. In fact, I've got some examples on some sticks I brought. It'll show one done with all thread and one done with mono. Now, if you use mono, you can't put finish over the mono. Turns it into a sheet of glass. So what you have to do if you use mono is you put the mono on and then you wrap something really thin, like a thin black A in the grooves of the mono. Then you can put finish over. And the reason I do that, see, people say, well, why don't you just use thread all the time? The reason I do that is when you inject mono into the situation, mono's round. and it tends to change the bizarreness of the movement. When we get done, take a look at the blanks. In fact, there's one right there. Pass it around, look at them. I've got 4 or 5 of them over there. It's really a neat technique, but they're just to tell you, there's a lot of ways of doing it. Okay, I see my gap here,
You gonna fix it with that?
and I'm
Did you?
almost fixed it. I improved it.
You improved it.
I've improved it. The other way to do it is, that was 2 threads. Take the same 2 threads
And put it in between both sides.
and do this.
Yeah.
Okay? So those are 2 ways of fixing what I call an error. Now, probably I would go with this. But I want to see, A, if I can improve it, and B, I'm only going to go up 1 size on the hole. It could actually bring it right back to this or worse.
So you started with an A and an A, right? And then you went to an A and a D.
2 A's,
right?
and then I went with, I sacrificed 2 A's. Now I sacrificed an A and a D.
And a D.
Right.
So
now,
what? Now
D
you're gonna
Bullard.
add 2 D's?
No, what I'm going to do is Bullard. See, you see that Holland? Yeah, that one.
Is that like
Okay.
an E?
You see, it's just slightly larger.
An E.
Yeah, it's kind of like an E. They call it Holland D,
Okay.
but like I said,
It's like an E.
whatever they call their threads, you have to know how it reacts to the other companies.
Sure.
So, and this is the little trick I do with my setup. Is this my weaving tool? This is how I reach in and pull threads up. So I use this to go through the hole. Especially since I drink so much coffee and I shake like crazy.
Coffee good.
Well, sometimes it comes in and causes problems when I'm weaving, especially if I'm, weaving a really small thread. Like Mark Krause uses. Boy, he likes that tiny, tiny stuff. I think he uses Madeira 60 weight, which is by far the,
You get a lot
it's
of
not smaller
you get a lot
than,
of detail that way, though.
yeah. And every error is a smaller error.
Yes.
We all make errors. So if you have big thread, the errors with big thread are big errors.
Right.
Smaller you go, the smaller the error. So, and anybody that says I never make an error,
Yeah.
I have to call.
Every day.
Yeah. Okay, so I got my thread set up. I'm going to put a loop back in. Again, right there on that 0. And you'll see me from time to time do something like this and then back up. But watch what I'm doing. I'm holding on to my main thread, pulling it off to the side. And it's like I just burnished using thread.
Sure.
Okay. Again, I want the red, because it's on this side of the machine. I want the red
Next to
close
the
to the black. I stick it through. Hold it down. See, I'm keeping it in sequence,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes out in sequence.
Yep.
You have to make sure you get enough through.
Or you can cut it.
Yeah. Later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, I just want to get it started. And since I put some tension by bringing the thread back, if I've got a real short piece, sometimes I can pull it right through. Okay, and I looped it over. Show you again. Looped over. Get it started. And I know there's got, I know there's got to be a black streak in there. When you're using really large threads and really small threads together, you have to be very careful.
You don't bury one.
The big one will want to bury the little one.
Yep.
So, and that's just specific to tigers.
Mm-hmm. And then you tag out after a little bit.
Actually, if I burnish good enough, sometimes I can run a long run by just turning it. Now again, I have no idea where we're going to get here. But I would have accepted that in most circumstances, unless I was just really trying to super dial in a lava lamp. Or if I wanted more islands or something like that. You know what? I'm going to do that on purpose. See how it's red? It's real consistent across here, and then all of a sudden there's this red spot. That means the red has overrun the black. And that's because I'm
change.
Yeah. So, and again, what I'm looking for is that nice consistent coloration and spacing all the way across. Another one I'll show you real quick here. Sometimes we have problems, especially as you get older, getting to the tip end of a 4-weight or 2-weight or 3-weight fly rod is tiny. It's really hard to start a guide wrap. So here's my trick. You wrap it around twice, go over the top, it holds the thread better, but there's a little lump there. Oh well.
Just pull back until it's not.
Now there's not. So commercial people do that frequently, but commercial people also leave the lump. Well, you know, it's about how many rods you can do in an hour.
Yep.
You know, not like
We're not commercial here. We're customs.
This is custom. You know, I want to bling it up. I want to do this. I mean, even on my plain Janes, I bling them. You know, I put inlays and stuff like that. You can wrap black, black, black. That's actually in San Diego called a deckhand special.
Yep.
On a black Harnell. Boy, golden with that, huh? I miss those old people. Okay. Rig my thread. Something else I've taken to doing with my sample wraps, you'll notice on this, if you want to look at, pass it around, I put notes on the top of each sample so that I know, okay, this is what I wrapped the underwrap with. In this one, it was done so long ago, I don't even remember, but I'm just guessing by the colors. Okay. Yeah, just the OCD part of me here, pulling this thread back around to where the 0 degree axis is.
Back to the dirty side.
To the dirty side. You can even make the dirty side look nice.
Yeah, you can.
It's really kind of important. And when I was judging fishing rods,
Right.
you know the fade wraps,
Yep.
where you go 10, 2, 10.
Yep.
Or,
Yep.
you know what a fade wrap is.
Yes.
2, 9, 3, 8, 6.
You know, people, you got excellent marks for me if all your tiles
Yep.
That's
like
tough.
this. Okay? Now, when you're selling a rod, it doesn't have to be like that. But when you're in a competition, that's where it goes from 99% to 100%.
Yep.
Okay, now remember, we've changed sizes of thread. And you'll notice there's a different coloration in this thread. That's the reason it's in the crap box or the dirty box. It faded.
Oh.
I had it up in the window And it's actually kind of a fluorescent color, so it faded real quick.
And you said that's an old Holland?
This is the old Good Rod.
Oh, the old wooden spool Gouda rods.
Yeah.
Do you like color preserved thread, Doc?
I like them all.
Okay.
They all
their
have
place.
they all have their advantages and disadvantages. When I'm weaving, I really try to stay with the NCP thread, the colors for the pattern. And the reason being, even if you use color preserver on raw thread, sometimes you don't get 100% coating.
Right.
And nothing's more irritating than to spend 100 hours on a weave
And then have a splotchy
and then
spot.
have a blotch. So
Oh, yeah.
I try to, and when I'm forced to use, because of coloration, when I'm forced to use a raw thread, man, do I ever run that color preserver on it.
3 coats.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just too irritating. I have some weaves that have taken me 140 hours to do.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Literally a week of wrapping. It's crazy. Okay, so we've done this. Please turn out right. Or at least, if not 100% right, pretty good.
And you could have left the other ones on there and done them all 4 of them so you could see them, right, Doc? Or were you-
I could have tied it off and then started
Yeah.
this one. But as big as I've made the samples, probably run out of room. But I have done that in the past. Hello.
Hello, my little friend.
Oh, I just disrupted it.
You got to be careful, right? Because
Well, especially with this, because
Yeah.
like I said, this is D2 finish, Diamond
It's
2.
hard.
It's hard as a rock.
and it was done a year ago.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
but that's a pretty decent pattern in there. Yeah. And I'll tell you why I know. Look at that big green shadow there. See the big green shadow? And then the stripes?
Yeah.
That big green shadow means that if I did that all through here, I'd have islands.
Okay.
That's how an island is made. And I like islands specifically to show people and as a selling point. If you're a rod builder to make money, the selling point is you really should have this tiger. Look at how it changes. And if I were to wrap this out all the way, that island would go from green to yellow to blue. That's my spiel for the basics.
Nice.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you put a finish coat down, how do you keep it from disrupting the pattern?
Oh, good question. Very sensitive to heat.
Okay.
Take a heat gun after you've got your thread on
Yeah.
and make sure you don't screw up like I did
Yep.
there.
Yep. So there's no disruptions.
Not real close, off, because if you get too close, you'll burn right through the nylon. But off like this, heat it up, feel it, you can feel it, heat it up. It's warm, nice and warm, almost hot.
Uh-huh.
Back off,
Yeah.
let it cool.
Right.
What has happened is the nylon thread stretches
And the finish coat heats
and
up.
then it comes back and it cuts right in. And the finish is soft
Yeah.
because you've heated it.
Yes. Okay.
Those of you that have stripped a rod, you know that you got those little lumps on the end. If you heat those lumps up, they come off easier.
Sure.
So that was a great question.
Thank you. Yeah, because I could see myself after doing this beautiful tiger getting in there and going and putting a finish coat on there and the brush moves the thread.
That's
and
exactly what would happen.
it just loses the whole
Especially
pattern,
if you
right?
put finish on like I do.
Right.
I mean, first of all, I whip it like whipped cream. People see the bubbles in my finish and they go, "Oh,
Right.
Doc, you're not going to put that on a rod." But then I take my my propane torch, propane torch, and I go, and they're gone.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
but I put a lot of tension on it. So I have to do that to all my tigers.
Right. Who's this one for, Doc?
Oh, this one's that I brought that to show everybody.
It's a beautiful
When
one.
it comes to tigers, for me, where I like to use them a lot, look at the islands in that baby. There's some. This is an
It's a beautiful-
A1,
yeah.
A+ to me.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece.
Remember what I said about diameter? I did everything the same at the same time, the same day. Look at how this is all real floaty and lava lamp. And this becomes more stripy as it gets narrower. So these are things that all have to be taken into consideration.
Sure, diameter. Nice.
That's why you can never absolutely duplicate a wrap.